All right, let's get right on started. So we got a bunch of stuff to get to today. We're leading off with some Diddy news, big news in the Diddy trial.
Big news for Puffy, the artist formerly known as Puffy, not guilty on racketeering conspiracy, not guilty on sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, guilty on transportation to engage in prostitution, not guilty on sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and guilty on transportation to engage in prostitution. So really what they got him on was what they got Lucky Luciano on. They got him essentially on pimping.
Right,
They're holding him
consensual, quote unquote,
on the
trafficking.
Mann
Yeah,
Act. Right,
right.
on the Mann Act, transporting people for purposes of sex. But obviously the racketeering counts were the more serious counts that carried a life sentence. A lot of speculation on how he got away with this. We'll
So
cover that
basically,
from a
his
few
joint
different
tour with
angles.
Kanye is still on in 6 years. It'll be
It's
the
still
Puffy
on.
Kanye
You
tour.
know,
Yeah,
there are texts between them that are pretty interesting out
yeah,
there. Yeah, Neil Young, I think, is going to be on that tour.
yeah.
Uh,
The opening up.
they're
Yeah,
they're all signing up with Amazon Prime Music.
Neil, Neil Young, Diddy, and Kanye tour.
Hey,
Yeah.
hey, my. All right. So Diddy denied bail, though, will remain in jail until October sentencing. After the jury revealed the verdict early Wednesday morning, Combs's attorney, Mark Agnifilio, told the judge that he should be released on appropriate conditions as early as today. The prosecution countered the request, stating that it posed a real risk to let him walk free. At 5 p.m. on Wednesday, the parties reconvened in the federal courtroom where Judge Aaron Subramanian announced his ruling. He said it would be impossible for Combs to prove he would not pose a danger to others if released on bail. Using the defense attorney's own words against them, the judge provided examples from the trial in which they admitted to Combs's pattern of violence. Quote, "You full-throatedly, in your closing argument, told the jury that there was violence here," Subramanian said to Agnifilio. I should have practiced that before the show. Quoting his summation on Friday, quote, "We own the domestic violence. We own it." The judge said the defense had prevailed on getting Combs acquitted on racketeering and sex trafficking charges, but, quote, "domestic violence is violence." The evidence of such violence, the judge said, will not be considered concerning Combs's sentencing, but it can be considered when determining bail. Agnifilio, in search of a glimmer of hope, told the judge that Combs had enrolled in a batterers program and went to meetings in New York before he was arrested in September 2024. Combs has been a remarkable prisoner and is working on himself, Agnifilio added. He's learning how to heal that wounded inner child. "I think we should trust him. He's not going to flee. He's been given his life back. He's going to have next chapters of his life." Arguing on behalf of the prosecution, Maureen Comey said the only thing exceptional about Combs is his wealth, his violence, and his brazenness. In fiery remarks, she reminded the judge of Combs's violence against women, which allegedly occurred as recently as June 2024, when he knew he was under a federal investigation. Quote, "There is nothing exceptional about this case except for his continued criminality," Comey said. "He's an extremely violent man with an extraordinarily dangerous temper who has shown no remorse and no regret for his multiple victims." Um, so, one of the factors, perhaps, in the judge's decision was the counsel for Cassie Ventura, who was really the leading witness in the case, who was involved in a relationship with Combs, who she says he kind of manipulated her and abused her and threatened her into taking part in these freak offs. They wrote a letter to the judge saying detention is mandatory, requesting that detention be mandatory post conviction on these charges. And Ms. Ventura believes that Mr. Combs is likely to pose a danger to the victims who testified in the case, including herself, as well as to the community. And they did the Trump sign off, interestingly. We thank the court for its time and attention to this matter. Now, okay, fair enough. You know, there's a lot of, if you watch some of these documentaries, a lot of people have gone on the record claiming to have been sexually assaulted by Combs, both men and women. Yeah, he's I think we could safely say he's a bad dude. Those things, I think the statute of limitations had run out. That wasn't part of the trial. But I think we could safely say that he's been terrorizing people for decades. That having been said, a big part of why this case fell apart, you know, a lot of people's knee-jerk reaction is, see, you can't charge a rich, powerful man. And yeah, look, I mean, we have video of him beating up Cassie Ventura. We can't show that on YouTube, but you've probably seen it if you have even a passing interest in this case. But yeah, they had audio tape of her threatening a male escort with murder because she believed he had a video of her taking part in freak-offs. Let's listen to a little of that.
I have to see it, but it's my life and I'll kill you. No, I will kill you if you don't show me right now. I will kill you and I will hide you and I will cut you up and put you in the dirt right now. Pull it up. If you have it, pull that up. Because if not, I'm going to kill you and then he's going to kill you again. So just do it. Pull that up right now.
Okay, so that kind of hurts your case that the woman is a passive victim being trafficked when you have audio like that. Not only that, they were able to produce texts between them. She's in the blue here. So, I miss you already. That's Diddy. Me too. When do you want to freak off? LOL. She replies, LOL, I'm just going to change. I'm always ready to freak off. LOLOL. You tell me the day you choose. It can be whenever. Name the night. I feel like the weekend. A Friday night would be best, so we'd want time to recover for the work week. This upcoming weekend is the only one I have until the 28th. Okay, I'm on it. LOL, but if you can't, we can always do it during the week. You know that doesn't matter to me. Friday it is. I wish we could get Jules here. LOL, maybe we could. We don't know him that well. Diddy responds, want to call him and feel him out. She says, I can do that. So this is really why the case fell apart. And frankly, this evidence is so undermining to the case of racketeering. And an anonymous victim who also was a witness, known as Jane, had similar texts with Diddy. What's remarkable isn't that the racketeering charges fell apart with this kind of evidence. It's why the prosecutors thought that it wouldn't. You know, of course, the argument is that they overcharged him. Do I think that these women were both victims and perpetrators? Yeah, probably. You know, you got this very rich, famous, well-connected guy. Is there an element of avarice in people wanting to do what he wants without necessarily him forcing them into it? Yeah, I think that's true. I think also, as we can see on the video, he it's incontrovertible that he was beating her as well. But the real question is, why did the prosecutors bring those charges if they knew this evidence was out there? How did they think they would get that past a jury? Maybe they just thought Diddy's behavior was so heinous that they'd be able to get them to rule that way anyway. Or you could get into the more conspiratorial aspects, as friend of show Suge Knight has in the past. So this was a little bit, you may have seen this, of Suge talking about Diddy's connections with Chris Cuomo.
Me. So he's smart enough to work his magic. On top of that, this man right here, he been in But at the same time, everybody want to look around and act like something going on that wasn't right. It's the facts of life in the industry. He's not a dummy. So he's smart enough to work his magic. On top of that, this man right here, he been involved with the FBI and most of his career. It's not like he don't have no moves. So I don't think nobody should just count him out. I don't think he gonna lay down and just crawl in the corner and die. He probably going through a lot of shit right now because he probably going through a lot of withdrawals for the drugs. But the industry got him on drugs. And see, they do these things to take control. They're not doing, there's nothing wrong with being gay. If you choose to be gay, that's your preference. But they doing this to people for control. It's a power situation.
All right. More recently, about a month ago, he went on with Michael Franzese, who's one of these ex-mobsters with a podcast now. Sammy the Bull has a podcast. These guys are doing very well off their past criminal lives.
We call it mobcasts.
Mobcasts, exactly. Actually, Sammy the Bull did a crossover with Michael Franzese. So these guys are doing very well off relating these stories. The Sammy the Bull podcast, if you've never heard it, is hilarious.
Yeah, it's great.
But here he is talking to Suge, and he goes even further in alleging that Diddy was basically working for the deep state.
Opinion or knowledge, how long was he an informant?
I think probably since the 90s.
Wow.
We had a conversation before. And if look at the things he was able to do. You were able to do all these things, nothing happened. His friend, one of his partners, they got convicted for selling drugs for the company. Nothing never happened to him. And he got Obama to give him a pardon with no problem at all. I can go to Obama and say, hey, my childhood friend is in prison for life, let him go. It would never happen.
That's for sure. And that did happen with Puffy.
We wouldn't be having. Yeah. 1,000%.
You think Obama had anything to do with any of these parties that he had?
Absolutely.
Wow.
You got
Thank God.
presidents. You got preachers.
Touching.
T.D. Jakes is one of the biggest black preachers around that everybody loves. Everybody in prison, if they try to get the word of religion, they're not going to the chapel somewhere. They're turning to watch T.D. Jakes. He had to resign from his whole community.
That's right.
You talking about the top of the top.
Unbelievable.
Top.
All right. So, I mean, we can't speak to that. And certainly there are a lot of people who wish they had not been photographed with Diddy, like Donald J. Trump. But here's a little video of Obama with Diddy in happier times.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all. Thank you. And I just want to say how much I appreciate Puff Daddy for doing the kinds of work that he's doing, because he doesn't have to do this. But this is part of what is important about giving back.
Yes, we applaud you, and I want to apologize for not sweating, but I do this so much. I'm so cool. I just want y'all to see everybody I'm interviewing is sweating. I'm not even touching my brow. I'm so cool, and I want to apologize. I ain't trying to make you look bad or nothing like that, but I'm just so cool. We
a t-shirt. I tell you, if he was wearing one of those fancy designer clothes he's designing, he'd be sweating just like me.
Yeah, I think Diddy's in a K-hole in that clip. So this was really interesting to me. This was actually a Fox News piece summing up the results of the trial this week, but they dropped in a little interview with a DJ who had a very interesting take on all this.
People knew, but I think it got to a point to where he ruffled the wrong feathers, and it's like, oh, you think you above the game? Okay, well, let's show you how the game is really played. And here we are. That's why I think, one of the first things they led with was they found how much baby oil?
Okay, so kind of suggesting like, hey, man, he broke balls, so they broke his balls back. Now, Whitney has written about this. one label under blackmail, the early intersections of Diddy and the Epstein network. A little bit from that article. It should come as no surprise upon closer examination of Sean Combs that, like Epstein, he was operating on behalf of a larger network that he did not ultimately control. Instead, it arguably controlled him. Combs was acting on behalf of an oligarch network that directly overlaps with that of Epstein. However, Combs was used to influence a different industry and a different community for the benefit of these intelligence and organized crime connected oligarchs. Now, obviously, we don't have access to secret files. We can't say. People who are inclined towards believing this about Diddy are interpreting this as, yeah, Suge was right. They wouldn't actually put him away for racketeering because he's actually an agent.
Right.
So they're going to slap him on the wrist, but they're not going to throw the book at him because he's actually working for him. And what that DJ was saying was almost kind of confirming that this is a reprimand, right? So you're going to do a few years, but you're not going to go all the way.
It also shuts him up for a few years. That's what
Right.
that's what I was Jimmy and Kurt covered this yesterday. I caught that part. I forget who said it on one clip that they played. I think it was on the Megyn Kelly show. And they essentially, as I remember it, I'm sorry if I'm botching it, but as I recall it, they're making the argument, yeah, if they could put him away for a few years on this charge, that kind of keeps him quiet too. Right. It's a slap on the wrist and it shuts him up and it keeps the more serious shit out of sight.
Look, I got to say, you gain a lot of credibility with me if your predictions bear fruit. Suge basically was saying months ago that he wasn't going away on racketeering because he was too connected.
Right.
So here you go.
Chris Cuomo only sources the best. You know, he's the gold standard.
Look,
for journalism.
probably my favorite Chris Cuomo moment ever is in that interview where he goes, "Go ahead, Suge.
Go ahead, Suge." I wish Chris Cuomo cared about the Palestinians as much as he loves Suge Knight.
So really, find someone who looks at you the way Chris Cuomo looks at Suge Knight.
Looks at a graphic of Suge Knight as he's talking into the prison phone. Yes.
Okay. So here's what I would call the full regard take, the kind of MAGA conspiracy take. Meet Maureen Comey, James Comey's daughter.
Well, they weren't going to leave this alone.
Oh, no. She is the prosecutor in P. Diddy's case, also in the Maxwell Epstein. Doesn't surprise me he was acquitted of the more serious charges. Okay, so who better to go to if you want the full regard take than Mr. Alex Jones?
Fact that James Comey's daughter was given the case out of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, so thousands of federal prosecutors, and that she's given all of the Epstein-related stuff, Ghislaine Maxwell, a whole bunch of other ones, it all gets handed to her because Daddy is on record as the controller of the, not just Epstein files and videos, but all the other big sex trafficking, pedophilia operations, just like J. Edgar Hoover used that for control. And Diddy was heavily involved with people that were above Epstein. And so clearly she went in just like she did in all these other cases. I mean, dozens. And she minimizes it and contains it. And now you notice they've had these other big lawyers pushing for Trump to pardon Ghislaine, which would be totally insane. And then I really would think maybe Trump is in some files we don't know about, but we've never seen evidence of that so far. But the fact that it's been floated to him is, as Roger Stone said, the worst idea ever heard in his life.
Yeah, that's a pretty bad idea, I'd say.
Yeah. So this is...
I'd say to fire whatever staffer told you should pardon Ghislaine Maxwell, yes.
That would be an awful idea. I've seen no evidence other than a few Polaroids, but those were probably doctored of Donald on the island, but I think that was actually Club Med. I think it was a Club Med. I don't think that was Epstein Island. But to state the obvious, who's the Attorney General right now under which this prosecution is taking place?
Right. Exactly.
Are you telling me if they were really so concerned that James Comey's daughter is subverting the prosecution in order to protect fans of the playground, why didn't they pull her off the case then? Why didn't they pull her off the case? Pam Bondi, can we get the Epstein list? Best I could do is deport you if you criticize Israel.
Yeah.
Right. Pam Bondi, who said in one interview that they have pictures, that they have videos, then goes on to say they don't, or they're looking through it. Come on, man. Gave people a bunch of fake file folders. So to go up there right now and pretend this is, if it is hey, maybe Comey's daughter is on the case to suppress evidence and to throw these cases and to protect the powerful. But wouldn't that mean Bondi's in on it?
Or at
She's
the very
still on
least,
the case.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I mean, at the very least, you'd have to say they would have something to say about it, right?
Right. Why wouldn't they fire her? Put another prosecutor on it. So if you believe what Alex Jones is saying right now, well, then you also have to believe that the Trump administration is in on it because they let it proceed with that prosecutor, right? If they were really concerned about this, they would have pulled her off.
Right.
This is one of the things they like to lead with, the perversion and decadence of the Democrats, wanting to make Epstein a Democrat issue and not a corrupt oligarchy issue. Well, so why wouldn't you pull her off and put a real prosecutor? Why don't we have the Epstein files for that matter?
Right. That's the ultimate question.
That's what makes that take so ridiculous.
Well,
Oh, yeah, it's Comey. Like, if the trial was thrown, it was thrown by the administration. Biden's not president. Harris isn't president. It's Trump's president.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds to me like what you're saying is that, just to going back to the beginning, which is that they really didn't have proof beyond a reasonable doubt of racketeering.
Absolutely not.
So
absolutely not. So why would you proceed with those charges if you know that the defense is going to be able to produce texts and audio like that?
Right.
There's no way you're getting that past a jury. I mean, very, very slim chance. Very slim chance. Like, look, I mean, you heard it. You've got her threatening the life of a male prostitute who was engaged in these freak-offs. Like, why would you think a jury is going to believe beyond a reasonable doubt that she had no agency in that situation?
Yeah, no, look, power and celebrity is all very seductive. There are a lot of very bad people who are rich and famous and who attract a web of people who are just kind of attracted to that world.
Exactly.
Even if it's a dangerous world. Why do you think girls hang out with mobsters? Why do you think, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a whole mystique around rich, powerful, famous people who are dangerous. They tend to attract people, not push them away. At least a certain type of person.
Right.
And so it's totally believable that you would involve yourself. Yeah.
Right. Ambitious people in the music industry. I think what happened, if you look at those texts, if you look at the audio, is it was fun until she started getting punched in the face. And then it wasn't fun anymore.
It's fun hanging around the mob until you get tasked with, hey, take this bag to the airport for me. You know what I mean? Like, this is what I mean. Like, people are drawn into these worlds, not understanding how serious shit can get when these people show their true colors, which eventually they always do. But that doesn't stop people from thinking they can have their cake and eat it too, right? I can hang out at the social club, but I'll never get hurt. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. These people are predators. That's what they do. They prey on people for a living as an MO. And it seems like Diddy was that. Seems like that was his personality.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Like a violent psychopath. And very often those people can be charming.
Yes.
Until they're not.
Yep. I mean, why do you think people move to Hollywood? And they think they're going to, I'm not saying everyone in Hollywood's like this guy or even a majority, but there's a lot of shady shit that goes on at these parties in Hollywood with a lot of drugs, a lot of very young girls. What do you think they vet up? What do you think they check IDs at the door? Come on. Like, there's a lot of crazy and bad stuff that goes on, and people are attracted to that environment.
Well, until 5 minutes ago, it was celebrated.
Right. Exactly.
You know, you look at they did a cartoon about Bob Evans.
Right.
You know, I mean, Bob Evans would freaking send women to pull messages out of their privates
Right.
to come to his parties.
Well, look at a show like Entourage.
People thought that was hilarious.
Right.
Oh, Bob, he's so crazy.
Right. I mean, if you look at a show like Entourage, the HBO show, this buddy comedy about this world. Now, that was a comedy show, so, you know, it's fine. Like, I'm not saying they shouldn't have done it, but, you know, that exposes you to the type of world this is. Now, it was kind of a lighthearted comedy, so it didn't delve into the dark side of that. But, what, you don't think there's a dark side of that? You think you got all these young girls and drugs and older guys with a ton of money to throw at whoever they want? What, you don't think that goes bad every now and then? You know,
Often.
More than every now and then? Often? Yeah, of course. Of course. So that's the verdict. A mixed bag, but looks like he'll go away for a little while, long enough to shut him up, but not long enough.
A few years, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Please clap.